Attention rhythm guitar players. Are you bored playing rhythm guitar chords in the same old positions on the guitar? Do you want to know how to blend better when you play with other guitarists? I'm Jim Britton and I'm going to teach you all about the D-A-F guitar trick. In this video, we're going to learn how to play partial chords and learn about how to use these shapes in a simple 1-4-5 progression. Then we're going to identify how to play these partial major chords in any key using the A shape, the F shape, and D shape chords. That's why we call it the D-A-F guitar trick. We're also going to solidify knowledge of the 1-4-5 chord progressions and learn how to identify the relationship between them, both on the lower strings and also the top 4 strings using partial chords. Now you're going to be experiencing nearly 20 minutes of free content of this course, which is all about the D-A-F guitar trick, which is available on Udemy, normally for $50. But with this coupon that you'll see in the description, you can get this course for $10 today. And this will give you access to the full 60-minute HD video where you can learn the complete process, even the advanced skills. It's only $10. But first, this free video will give you a lot of what you will need to start. So I hope you really enjoy this. Enjoy learning this. This is going to be a game changer for you. Hello, my name is Jim Britton, and I'm here to share with you some of the tricks that I've learned about playing guitar. Specifically, we're going to focus on guitar chords and a 3-chord shape progression or pattern that we call D-A-F using those chord shapes. Daffy, whatever you want to call it, it's D-A-F, and it's a little trick that's going to show you how you can play chords all over the guitar fretboard and not just the regular old places where you've learned them previously. If you ever play with another guitarist, it's a good idea to know how to play a chord in more than one position. Having 2 guitarists playing the exact same chord voicing in the exact same place at the same time really doesn't do much for sound. So I found when I'm playing with another guitarist, a D-A-F formation like what we're going to show you here today is an excellent way to choose different chord voicings when you're playing with another instrumentalist. Sometimes it adds just some character or some flavor to your sound. Regardless, it's a great trick to know, and it's one that I hope helps you as we move along. First of all, what we need to do to get going is to grab our very trusty weapon. And in my case, my famous Martin acoustic guitar. And we'll have to do some tuning, of course. Make sure that you're in tune if you want to play along. And it's not necessary that you play along, but it's good visually for you to be doing the fingerings as we're moving, okay? So we'll be working with 3 chord shapes based on chords you probably already know. Those chords are A, F, and D, hence the D-A-F formula. Stay tuned, we're going to dig a little deeper into this formula, or system if you will, and I'm sure it's something that will benefit you as you play guitar, either for yourself or with another guitarist or in a band or whatever your pleasure might be. Welcome back. Let's talk a little bit about the chord shapes that this lesson is based on. In this chart, you will see 3 different formations of chords, ones that you should be familiar with. First, we have the D formation, the A formation, and also the F formation. Notice that the A formation is a variation of the basic first position A major chord. If you've already started learning bar chords, then you may be familiar with this chord shape as it is. However, just understand that it's based on an A chord. If you want to see a standard A chord, take a look right to the right of the arrow. There's an A chord that shows what your typical fingering would be for that A. So what we want to do is look at these major chords. Each one of them has the root note noted. You'll notice that the letter R is where the root note is in any given chord. So in the D formation, the 4th finger is an optional note. If you decide you want to play the D formation all the way up and down the neck, if you want to make a complete chord using 4 strings, then you can add that 4th note. I generally don't. I find it's more trouble than it's worth, and the sound isn't really that different. But if you're a perfectionist, the 4 in the D formation can be used, and it's in parentheses because it's an optional note. The top 3 strings alone make up a major chord. Now, I want to point out one other thing. As you look at each of these chord formations, the D formation, the A formation, and the F formation, Notice that there's a number to the left of the chord grid which indicates what fret number the chord would be at. So for example, in the D formation, you'll notice a 2, that's for 2nd fret. Next to the chord grid that shows the A formation, you'll notice there's a little 5 there. That indicates which fret this chord should be played on. And then in the F formation, there's a 10 on the 1st fret. And that 10 means that you should be on the 10th fret, so that F formation chord would be played on the 10th fret. The reason why we're doing this is because I want to show you D chords using these different formations all up and down the fretboard. I'll show you another diagram that has these D chords outlined, but for now just understand we're playing a D chord and we're aiming for playing it in different places up and down the fretboard. So in order to play a D, the D formation needs to start at the 2nd fret, the A formation needs to start at the 5th fret, and the F formation needs to start at the 10th fret. That's what would be D chords. So again, be patient. I'll talk about this a little bit more in the demonstration part. These are the major chord shapes, and the top 3 strings alone comprise a major chord. The root of the A is played with your 3rd finger. The root of the F formation is played with your 3rd finger. Let's take a look at each one of these chords, and I'll show you how we're going to make D chords as we're moving along. So let's take a look at these 3 different formations first before we get into how to play chords up and down the fretboard. Again, we'll come back to the fret numbers, but I want you to focus on the formations, okay? Let's play a D chord, an A chord, and an F chord, because these are the 3 chords that our secret formula is based on. Hello, it's Jim again. I'm back with my guitar, and hopefully you have yours ready too. Let's take a look at those chord shapes that I was referring to just a moment ago. The first one we want to look at is what is our standard open D chord. So I want to add in the root note here. If you want to play this with 4 fingers, you can. As I mentioned previously, I tend not to. I prefer not to. It's a lot easier to play this way, and it doesn't really make that much difference in the sound. These are all different chords based on the same basic formation, and you may have experimented with this and actually noticed it already yourself, which is fine. What we want to do is tie this in with the pattern that we've been talking about, which is our D-A-F pattern. Those of you who are familiar with bar chords will recognize this A shape as one of the fundamental shapes for making major bar chords. However, most of us learn A in this position first. I have seen some people play with 1 finger, which sometimes can be a little bit faster if you're making a quick chord change. But more times than not, I tend to play it with 3 fingers. It's up to you, whatever choice happens to be convenient for you. So that's the second shape we're going to use. Now, notice that shape can be played either with your pinky or with your ring finger. And as we slide it up the fretboard, it becomes the A-shaped bar chord. So, this chord shape, however, if we focus just on the bottom 4 strings, would begin to look something like this. If you take these 2 strings here and put a little bar across it, that's kind of half of the chord there, and we're mostly focusing on the top half. It's okay to use your index finger to cover more than 1 string, because the only string that it's really sounding on is the first one. These 2 fingers here are covering the other pieces. Now I'm going to show you one more trick, and this is one that I use a lot. When I'm playing up and down the fretboard, if I'm this far with a bar chord, I'm just going to go ahead and play the whole thing. However, one neat little trick that you can do, and this is why I pointed this out, is to cover that A shape on these 3 strings with only 1 finger. Could be your index, middle, ring finger. In this case, I'm going to use my middle finger because it's stronger. By using this shape, it allows me to move really fast with A-shaped bar chords. I'm going to demonstrate that. See how fast I can go doing that? Instead of, yeah, you can also do it with bar chords too. But it's a different way of doing it. Plus you can bend it too. That's kind of a cool thing. The F shape that we want to use is based on this F-shaped bar chord. Instead of playing a full bar chord, we're going to focus once again just on the top 4 strings and make this piece of it. As shown in the diagram, that we want to play all these shapes as a D chord. And this D chord we already know, right? Then we want to play a D chord using the A shape. As a bar chord, it would be played up on the 5th fret. There's your root note right there. As a D like that, but I'm going to play it like this. Again, third piece of it is the F shape. And ordinarily, you would play that as a full bar chord way up here. As an F chord in the D-A-F formula, we're going to play it up here. Okay? So this is a D, this is a D, and this is a D. Okay? So we'll teach you the formula in the next section. First, I want you to focus on these chord forms. The D shape, your A shape, and then your F shape. Okay? So there you have it. D was shape number 1, D was shape number 2, and D was shape number 3. Coming up next, we'll give you the formula and I'll show you how it works moving it up and down the fretboard. Now that we've had a chance to explore the different chord shapes, here's how the secret D-A-F chord formula works. First, play the first position D chord. Then skip a fret and play the A chord form. This is the next higher D chord. The D shape started on the 2nd fret, the A shape was on the 5th fret because that's where the root note is, and then the F chord form was all the way up on the 10th fret, and that is the next higher D chord. So the way the secret D-A-F chord formula works is you play the first position D chord, you skip a fret, and when you're skipping a fret, what you want to do is count it from the highest string up. So if we look at all the D chords here, here's our D chord, and you can see that the highest note up is on the 3rd fret. Then you want to skip one, then you use the A formation. And it's based on where the root note is. So if you play the A chord as I was doing and dropping out the root note, remember to visualize the root note or you won't be able to follow this formula. So what you do is you make the D form, then you skip one, then you go to the next highest fret up where the root note is for the A formation. After the A formation, think of A as being the anchor. The A form is where you want to count up from the highest string where you're fretted, which would be on the 7th fret. This time you want to skip 2. When you skip 2, then you use the F formation. So if you take a look at the F formation, again we're making D chords, so we started on that 2nd fret, then our highest note was on the 3rd fret, we skipped 1, went into the A formation where our root note is, then notice your highest fingering there is on the 7th fret, so you count up 2 from there, and then you use the F formation. So now you're on the 10th fret if we're making D chords. The way this pattern works is that you can play major chords all over the fretboard using this 3 major chord formation. You'll love this when you're playing a song that has the same chord for a few bars because it allows you to automatically climb up and down the fretboard, and you can do so and add a few licks along the way or some arpeggios or whatever. But even more so, it allows you to spice up the boring standard formation. This is especially useful if you're playing in any situation that has more than one guitar player. So again, I want to reiterate how this works. As we're going to use this in a different key now. We've done D. D was easy because we started with that D on the 2nd fret. Noticed our next highest note was on the 3rd fret. Then we jumped up to where the root note was by skipping 1, which puts us on the 5th fret. and then our A formation lays us all the way up to the 7th fret. Then we skip 2. After A comes 2, then F, and that's on the 10th fret. Again, these are all D. Then skip 1, and all the way up at the 14th fret, it repeats itself back to D again. If we had an endless fretboard, we could keep on moving this pattern all the way up, going D, skip 1, A, skip 2, F, skip 1, back to D. D, skip 1, A, skip 2, F, skip 1, back to D. Let's look at this in a different key just so you get an idea how this works. We're going to use all F chords this time, and we're going to start in F. We'll play all the F chords as they appear. First, we start with the F in the F chord shape, way down on the 1st fret. That's where our root note is, and that's on the 1st fret, and that's F. After F, what happens next? We skip 1. We go from that highest F note, in this case happens to be on the 3rd, skip 1, and we play the D shape. That D shape's on the 5th fret, and remember, we're just going F, A, D, D, A, F all the way up the fretboard. So now, in the key of F, starting on F anyway, we can go F, skip 1 up to this D, skip 1, then we play the A shape again, if we're playing F chords. Then we skip 2, we're back to the F chord shape again on the 13th fret. Skip 1, D shape, skip 1, A shape. I'll give you a little bit of a visual explanation on this, and we'll do a couple of different chords. You get the idea of how it works. Again, it's always from D to A to F. D, skip 1, A, skip 2, F, skip 1, and that allows you to play every chord you know in 3 different places. As long as you're playing the same key, just remember, F, skip 1, D, skip 1, A, skip 2, and you'll have the D-A-F formula down, and I'm sure it will provide you with many hours of guitar pleasure as you have the opportunity to play some chords in different places than you ordinarily might think of. So that's the D-A-F formula, and I look forward to expressing this a little bit more in the visual style. So stay tuned as we move into the visual portion of this segment. Hi, this is Jim. I'm back with my guitar again, and we're going to talk a little bit more about our D-A-F chord formula. In the exact order of the way the formula works, it's D-A-F. So when I was first learning this, right, no problem, D, skip 1, play A, skip 2, jump up to the F shape, right? Remember, we go from the highest string up, which is the D, skip 1, here's our skip 1 right here. Then we have A, and this is our highest string up here. Remember, we skip 2 after the A, so right up here is where the F shape comes in. Now, this is all well and good, except for one minor thing. When I first learned this, I was confused. Like, D-A-F, how hard is that? That's easy, right? Well, what about if you start with an F shape? Play a G here. Well, great. D-A-F works in this formula too, but you got to know where to begin. So let's see. D-A-F, what comes after F? Oh, D. Yeah, okay. F, and then D, and then A. So I figured out that really there's 3 different chord shapes or formulas or what we call mnemonics that I use so I can remember how to use this formula no matter whether I'm starting on a D shape, an F shape, or an A shape. In D, of course, we're starting with a D, then it's always going to be an A shape next, and then the F shape. And don't forget our skips in between, D, skip 1 A, skip 2 F. But if we're starting with an F chord, then the pattern still is D-A-F, but we begin with F, and it goes to F-D-A. From here, I made up a new mnemonic, and this one is F-D-A. So I think of the bank, right? F-D-A, all federal deposits are insured for $20,000, whatever the heck it is. So I know when I start on an F, then I'm thinking F-D-A. What about if I start on an A shape? In that case, I have one more mnemonic, and that is A-F-D. A fine day. So there's my A, skip 2 up to the F, skip 1 up to D. There you go, just like that. So I'm going to demonstrate it using a beginning chord of each one. Okay, now let's try this starting with the F chord shape. We're going to do the G chord, okay? So I'm starting on the 3rd fret, what would ordinarily be barred like that. I'm going to play it like this. Using our pattern, we go from the F, skip 1, now we go up to the D shape. Okay? And our pattern again is skip 1 from the highest note here. So we skip this fret right here, and here we are. there's a G. Pattern stays the same. F, skip 1, up to the D shape, skip 1. Here we have the A shape. If we want to start on a chord that has an A shape, all right? Let's start on B. So we start with our B, and we skip 2. We skip 1, 2, and after that, this one is A, F, D. We start on A. My little mnemonic is A fine day, so it's A, F, D. There's my F chord shape. So I'm starting here. This is a B. Skip 2. Then we have, remember, A, F, D. F, and that's on the 7th fret. In the F shape, this is still a B chord. I started on B with the A shape. Skip 2, using the F shape. Right up here, there we have another B. Now, after the F shape, we skip 1. So we skip this one here, and here we have it. That's also a B. There's our A. Remember, with the A shape, it's A fine day. A, skip 2, because it's A. Then we have F. Skip 1. Well, there you go. So we did it with 3 different patterns, starting with 3 different chords. Using that same trick with the D-A-F, we just switch the letters around depending on which chord shape we start with. So with D, then we skip 1, and then we have our A shape here. Then we skip 2, and guess what we have next? Our F shape. Those are all D chords. You have to practice this, and you have to use it a lot. You got to burn it in, just like any other lick that you learn. This piece of knowledge will go away if you don't use it. So what I recommend doing is go through 3 different chord progressions using each of the shapes first. It doesn't matter what key you decide. If you want to start, your D shape here, you can start your D shape here, start your D shape here. It doesn't matter, but just remember to follow that formula so that you can figure out where the other chords are without having to really think about it too much. That's a little tip, and hopefully that helps you in your playing. It's been a pleasure. Talk to you again soon.